and I'll let you know when I stop recording, which will be right before the break. Um, so, Dando Poets is an opportunity for poets around the country and beyond, because we've had a few poets join us from Nepal and South America in the past to join us virtually in the space and to create a kind of a cohesive community that sometimes reappears. The folks come back for more, even if they're not performing or reading. And I love that because we're getting to know one another and creating bonds across borders and boundaries that some of us have to recognize in our everyday lives as employees and laborers. But as poets, those boundaries and border lines get kind of erased and blurred as we share and we learn about each other and the places that we come from, the history, and our places in that history, that context of the place where we land. Um, let's see. And Josh, are you here now? Yes. Welcome, Josh. Do you mind sharing the link with Chan? Because I'm not sure that she has it. I might have emailed it to her, but today has been like a 48-hour day. Thank you. Just to double check because she hasn't arrived here in the space yet. So every month there's a different theme, and this month's theme is Dando Otra Mirada, giving a second glance, taking a second look at something, which could mean reassessing your feelings about the idea of Pride Month, or it could be about kind of giving a person a second chance, someone who might have done something to hurt your feelings, or maybe you hurt their feelings and they're giving you a second chance, a second look. And so that's left for really wide interpretation. So the poems that you'll be bringing to the poets, you don't have to justify your choices. It's just that I hope at least one of your poems speaks to the theme in a way that is meaningful to you, which you may or may not have time and want to explain to us, but that's optional. So, Rob, you ready to start? Rob Rocha is from here in the DFW area, and I haven't heard your voice in over a year and a half. So
It's
I'm
been a
very
long
pleased
time,
to
Tammy.
have you today. And I'd love you to talk a little bit about also the experience that you're having right now doing the virtual workshop with, uh, please tell me his name, Jimmy
Jimmy
Santiago
Santiago
Baca.
Baca, yes. Well, thank you and hello everyone. I am beyond excited to be here. It is. I haven't. Well, like Tammy says, I haven't seen you since that event over in Oak Cliff when Vicente Fox was here and Rigoberta Manchu was here that time. Yeah, it's been way too long. Thank you for thinking of me and remembering me for this event. I'm excited to be a part of the community, and I'm also so thankful that I'm opening this thing because I didn't want anybody to be waiting to hear me because you would have wasted a whole lot of time. But yeah, I started a conference yesterday. I've always wanted to do some kind of a workshop or a conference, and because of schedules and things, I've just never been able to do it. And so I finally just said, I want to do one this year. I recently became Facebook friends with Jimmy Santiago Baca, and we chatted and we've kind of gotten to know each other through the via Facebook. And so he invited me to come on and do the this writers retreat that's happening in New Mexico. And it started yesterday, and it was so basically he's been sharing, his, as he was in prison for 25 years in his young life, and so everything that he writes and that he does comes from that angle. And he's very involved, with going into the youth detention centers and juvenile halls and those kind of things, and teaching kids about writing and about writing how they feel and those things. And so it's been really great these last 2 days. We've gotten a lot of little assignments which kind of just spark your creativity, and so I have just been enjoying it. It's Central Time. It's from 11 in the morning till 4 in the afternoon, and with a break for lunch in between. And it's been really great. And I just encourage anyone who's never done something like that to do it, because it really is. I really am getting kind of like a refreshing in a just a renewing. So really cool. And you can go on his Facebook page, Jimmy Santiago Baca, on Facebook, and you'll find all the information. And he's posting video clips and pictures and all that kind of thing. So really, really great stuff. Yeah.
Cool.
Awesome. So I
Thank
don't know, Tammy, did you want me to just go ahead and dive in?
Yeah, go roll right into it.
Sorry.
Por
Okay.
favor.
Great.
Thank you.
So one of the assignments we had it was a pre-assignment for the retreat. Was he had some artists on there that came to speak, a muralist and an artist, and so far, and they turned in a whole bunch of their work, and we were to look at some of these images, and the one that spoke out to us the most, he wanted us to write something on that. And it just so happens that the one I wrote about and I shared today at the retreat fits kind of with this topic that you have tonight. So I'm kind of excited to share it. And it's about actually finding a redemption and finding peace with my mother, who passed away 5 years ago, and our relationship was somewhat strained. It was hard in the later years, and I've carried a lot of regret about that. And so recently I've been reassessing our relationship, and so this is kind of me saying, hey, so we can move on. This is for you. And so this is entitled Mother. Um, and this is what it says. Tears were the voice of your eyes, and they speak volumes to me now, years later, in the scattered images of my memory. I was too young to understand your pain and the depths of your sacrifice. I had no experience in the ways of the world. I never realized that searching for identity in this life would be a painful and lifelong journey, especially when those around you are too quick and eager to write off your pain. I was unable to comprehend that you were also on that journey. I didn't know how to recognize depression. I just thought you always had migraines, walking around the house with the blue bandana wrapped around your head and taking naps in complete darkness in the brightest of afternoons. I just came to believe that you had lost your mind when you began lashing out in anger, saying mean things and making declarations of not caring anymore. I never knew that you were actually crying out for help and mercy. Your chronic breathing issues, I now believe, were enhanced by your inability to just breathe, to take in a breath and take some of the burden off your soul. The pains in your heart, all daggers that I jabbed you with daily, because I assumed that came with the job of being mother, forgetting that before you were a mother, you were a person with hopes and dreams, most unrealized because you became lost in this whirlwind I call life, because you felt you had to sacrifice your hopes and dreams so that I could pursue mine. The truth is that I miss you. Your aura forever gently glows, illuminating every single page where I dare to document the pains of my life. I have been unfair in my assessment of our life together. You were right in saying the things you did. You didn't waste any time. You went for the jugular, and I became alienated from you. But you were a good mother and a great person. In your displayed frailty and extreme humanity, I ignored your divinity. Forgive me, mother. I continue to love you as I live out my days, a slave to my personal pain, and you belonging to God, where in eternity, God calls you Nelda, my beautiful child, and you smile.
Wow. Wow. Thank you.
Beautiful.
Thank you. Thanks.
Wow.
Thank you.
Full resolution.
Thank you. And that has brought me some peace. So, and
You read that out loud? Do you read that out loud to anyone, or have you taken it to maybe a
I, I
gravesite?
I read it for the first time this morning for the retreat. Yeah. Yeah, and it was very well received too. So I'm very grateful, very grateful. Um, and then I just searched to see, something else. I'm not sure if it fits completely with the topic, but it's another one. It's called The Pain We Carry. And it says, don't be concerned about my life, for the reality is that I died years ago one night when the moon was full and the stars were bright. The wolves began to howl, and then the storm appeared, shaking everything to its core and moving the temple of my soul off its foundation. There are others like me who no longer live, but continue existing, zombies in a world that doesn't understand the true exchange between life and pain, joy and sorrow, death and peace, decisions and consequences. We are not ungrateful, nor selfish, nor weak. We are wounded warriors, perfectly alive one day and struggling to survive the next. Vagabonds who were once the beautiful and now we are the invisible. Goes to those who seek to ignore us and our pain, like the homeless person on the street corner that we turn our eyes away from when it's our turn to be stuck at the red light. I won't force you to look at me, but rather look at yourself, for you could become me at any time, any place, and because of any situation. So for now, enjoy your life while we manage our existence and know that the only difference between us and you is the pain we carry. That's the second one. So, thank you so much
Thank you, Rob.
thank you for
Thank you.
allowing me to read that.
Beautifully warm.
Thank you. Thank you.
Rob, I can't remember. Do you have a chapbook out? Didn't you release a chapbook in 2018 or
In,
19?
in 2018, yes, I released a book of bilingual poetry that I call Tamarindo Dreams, a collection of audio poetry. That's where I met you for the first time when you invited me to go to your event there in Fort Worth. And I believe it's still on Amazon. You can find me on Facebook either as Rob Rocha or Roberto A. Rocha, which is my author page. Or you can just look it by the find it by the title Tamarindo Dreams poetry book or whatever, and it'll come out there. It's got a big old rooster on the cover, so you can't miss it. Yeah, and I'm working on a new project actually right now, and I'm hoping that maybe I can. I self-published the first one. I'd like to see if maybe I can shop this new one around and see if I can get any takers. So thank you so much,
Well,
everybody.
good luck with that.
Your encouragement means the world to me. Thank you.
Of course, Rob. And if you have I just tried to Google it really fast.
Mhm.
Amazon Tamarindo Dreams. But if you in here in the next hour or so have a chance to find that link, that way if it's shared in the chat,
Okay.
I can share the chat with everybody.
I will do that right
In a
now.
few days, so everybody can have the note in one place.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you especially for that first poem. That's really deep and honest, and for us to dig deep into the well and care to release some of those thoughts and acknowledgments even to ourselves. That takes a lot of spiritual might and strength to do, but for you to share it with us, maybe mostly people you don't know already, that's really brave, and I want to acknowledge and thank you for that.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
um, Guadalupe, Lupita, are you ready? Our next poet is Guadalupe Gonzalez Perez, and she is going to read some work that I don't think I've heard before. And you're reading to us from San Antonio, but you're soon to be relocating to another part of Texas. So if you want to share anything about that or some things you've been working on as well, feel free to do that. Again, here's Guadalupe Gonzalez Perez, Lupita.
Yes, I'm going. Thank you, Tammy. I appreciate you for always inviting me, always being keeping keeping my poetry in mind. Uh, I will be reading in Spanish. Right now, I'm in San Antonio. I'm from RGB. I was born in Brownsville, Texas, raised in Mexico, and I'm a bilingual teacher. I was teaching pre-K 3 and 4 during this year that I came just because of the COVID situation to stay closer to my kids. But now it seems that they're ready to start on their own. So I'm going back to Dallas. Now I will be hopefully uh, teaching at an elementary school that it's in the Oak Cliff area. So I think that I'm blessed because remember when we drive from Fort Worth to Oak Cliff to an event, a poetry event, and we were together, Tammy, to listen to Jessica Salgado. My poetry, that the one that I will be reading, it's in Spanish, and it's not a concern. It's something that I'm working on. It's finally making the crossover and start being brave enough to write in English or work on this, translating my poetry. Um, and I'm proud of how my view, my point of view changed when I moved and I started teaching my students, my immigrant students, and also the language barriers and this and how do I perceive now and how I acknowledge the effort of our community, how we code switch or we use Spanglish. It changed my point of view. Like being raised in Mexico, I was very squared and very uh, muy cabezona, just like not open to a different perspective or point of view. So definitely my view changed, and now I am able to see a bigger picture, and I consider myself that I have grown uh, in creating this sense of pride in my students and even myself. And now I have an inclusive, a different perspective. And as a teacher, I think that it's fundamental for us to be open-minded and inclusive. So that's why I started saying thank you, Tammy, for always including me, because my poetry is in Spanish, but I'm proud of it. Y les voy a compartir Migrante, porque soy migrante, como mis estudiantes, como algunos quizás de nuestros padres o nosotros mismos. Migrante, dice así. Tiempo. Los laberintos finalmente se han descifrado. Los callejones lucen aún desiertos. Las tardes de incinerante sol se han aquietado. En sórdido desencuentro, exhalo al viento que quema la textura tersa de mi espalda. ¿Hasta dónde hemos llegado? ¿Cuánto hemos caminado? Pasaje migrante contando una historia itinerante. Fusión inmarcesible. Diálogo exabruptamente silenciado. La aridez absurda del camino. Las plantas de mis pies. La esencia de esta historia. El brillo de tus ojos, crepúsculo naciente, nos ha calcinado. And this is something that I remember that I was just waiting outside my apartment when it was the first fall that I started living, 2017, that I started living in Fort Worth, and I took the courage to go to Dallas to a lecture. It was Cristina Rivera Garza who was presenting her book. And there was a lot, like there were too many things going on in my heart because I was there starting living my life on my own 47 years later. And 46 years later. That's when I leave the Bali, and I wasn't sure if I was going uh, to have the strength to go to that event after school, and I started writing. And this is that poem that I read, Migrante, was the one that I was writing before going to a book presentation. And now I'm going to share something with you that it's a different perspective and how someone can come across your life, and it's going to change your point of view, or it's going to help you perceive you as a different person just because of this crazy thing called love, right? Cambiemos de tema. También hay cosas lindas. Para siempre. ¿Recuerdas? Parecía que vigilantes íbamos por la vida, despiertos, sedados, distantes. Nos encontramos perdidos, dispersos, malqueridos, convencidos de que habíamos vuelto a nacer para querernos. Encontraste la manera de descifrar mi mirada, de escudriñar entre mis temores, regalándome en tu abrazo una naciente morada. Encontraste la manera de cambiarle a mi vida la tonada. ¿Recuerdas cómo me hacías reír a carcajadas? Jamás olvidaré cómo reímos la tarde de nuestro primer encuentro, cuando intentábamos contarnos todo aquello que había marcado nuestras vidas, quitándonos el sueño, nublando nuestro entendimiento. ¿Recuerdas? Caía la tarde en Bernie cuando la mirada nos cambió, inseguros, incrédulos, ante aquella coincidencia que nos erigía en dioses, revistiéndonos de esos temores que nos habían descubierto titubeando como si fuéramos adolescentes. 30 años ya habían pasado después de ese, nuestro primer encuentro. ¿Recuerdas? Regresabas a mi vida a reescribir conmigo un mejor pasado, a regalarme una vivencia plena del olvidado, descubriendo en tu mirada que había vida después de la muerte, plenitud, no arrepentimiento. ¿Recuerdas? Me revelaste del amor el más grande de los secretos, convirtiendo nuestros días en para siempre, porque hay historias y presencias, porque hay amores que en eternidad se signan al quedarse para siempre. Queremos mutuamente, a perpetuidad, un para siempre.
Wow,
Wow, increíble.
thank you.
Muchas
Gracias.
gracias. Muchas gracias.
Muy bonito.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Lupita. Let me know when you're in town so we can get together.
Te quiero, sabes que voy a estar ahí con el gorro. Te quiero también.
¿Cuándo?
Yeah, probably, well, human resources has been behind me, so probably I will be there in 2 weeks to sign the contract. Yes, I'm so happy.
Felicidades.
I will
That's great.
contact you. I will let you know so we can have dinner or something. Por favor.
Oh yeah, looks like Rob's already inviting us. Yay. So our next poet is someone who I meet a lot of people online, and it's really exciting when I finally get to hear their voices. And I really pushed myself hard last year during the pandemic time to reach out to some of these Facebook friends who are like somewhat anonymous entities. We liked each other's comments and posts, but didn't really have a chance, an opportunity to have a deeper connection. And so this next person who's going to read is someone who's connected with me via poetry and mutual admiration for things of literary accomplishment. And so for the first time I get to hear Danilo's voice out loud from Miami, Florida. We're going to hear you speak now. If you're ready, to unmute. Danilo Lopez Roman from Miami.
Thank you, Tammy. We finally meet face to face. Well, sort of, right?
Sort of.
Finally, yes. I spent 12 years in Dallas and Fort Worth, and we never got the chance to get together for one reason or another. But here we are. Before I begin, I wanted to say, Roberto, Rocha, that we have a lot of things in common. And I met Jimmy Santiago Vaca in Dallas in a poetry reading while I was researching a Nicaraguan poet who was also in jail for many years in the USA. Let me tell you, Roberto, I don't know how you can read a poem about your mom without crying. It's very moving. I mean, my mom passed away 5 years ago as well. And yeah, you're right. Sacrifices and hopes and dreams, how we miss them. And anyway, it's, and Lupita, I admire you because 2 of my 3 daughters are teachers. And it is not easy. It is very hard on them because of the pandemic and all that also. Talking about the language barrier, my little daughter, Danibel, well, when she was little, now she's a teacher. She went to school in 3 languages, in 3 different countries, in Nicaraguan Spanish, in Portugal in Portuguese, and then in the USA in English. So talking about language barriers, one day she came back from the 1st grade and kindergarten, I think it was, and she told me, papi, los niños me hablan, pero yo no sé lo que me están diciendo. The poor dog, she was having a big trouble, learning 3 languages in 3 different countries. It was very hard. And my other daughter, Christelle, the youngest, she is very involved in immigrants and fighting for the immigrants' rights. She lives in South Carolina. But anyway, I'm going to read 2 poems. One of them is, let's put it this way. It is not that I have changed my political positions, but I have changed the means to achieve our objectives of justice, equal opportunity, democracy. I have been forced to leave Nicaragua twice because of my political positions, and now we live in the States. So these 2 poems are about a shift in my focus in these positions. The first one is called, well, I have the Spanish and the English version. I'm going to read the English for the first one. Headings. With a trembling hand, Jorge Luis Borges simulates a signature on the first page of my red book. Embassy of Argentina, Lisbon, 1985. Returns it to me. In another time, I will stamp the date. Penta Hotel. Rafael Alberti sitting very happy by my side. Shouts the name of my country, euphoric. Caresses his long hair. Places the glass of wine on the side table. And signs my 1985 opera agenda. Palace of Queluz. Álvaro Cuñal enters, and we make guesses about political values of the communist paradise in Nicaragua. I forgot what I did. Comparing terms is not enough. It is incomplete. Trusting others is convenient, scandalous. My clients are strange children using stationary artifacts, impossible to classify. Could it be that the need is mutual and that, grammatically speaking, the chasms that unite us depend on the sense of adventure that we continually neglect? As long as the work allows it, let us create the corresponding pamphlets. We will make them circulate among loving people. And the beauty of time will confer the pronouns so many guilty desires, so many family misrepresentations. Life lowers our expectations, and living in the United States of America imposes a toll on lost words, annihilates 10 or 20 poems at once. Diabolical artists, anti-war demonstrations, all addictions and styles, confusing new syntax. I would give up all my fortunes to recover my language. The second one is a book that I just published, Poemas del Hombre. And this is, each of the poems in the book begins with a epigraphy from Soren Kierkegaard. Principios del hombre. Parto del principio de que todos los hombres son aburridos. Seguramente nadie va a demostrarse ser tan aburrido como para contradecirme en esto. Soren Kierkegaard. El hombre increpa sus hazañas, descree de gestas caudillos y pelmazos. El hombre nunca dijo a la orden mi general, dirección nacional ordene. Detesta cuadros de políticos colgando de las paredes, estén vivos o muertos, y danzas azul y blancas o transformados neorrevolucionarios vivos. Le han criticado por dudar del materialismo histórico, del liberalismo keynesiano y del conservadurismo simplón y vendepatria. En un momento creyó y estudió a los tupamaros, craso error de juventud, ignorante, ardiente, que preocupada por los pobres y la injusticia, se zambulló en los cantos de sirena del socialismo real. El hombre falló como generación, que otros rediman sus errores. El hombre ya tuvo su gusto. El hombre está cansado. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you. Beautiful. El hombre está cansado.
Thank you so much, Danilo.
Gracias, primo.
Yeah, that's great, great.
Román, sí es. Alberto, mi primo de verdad. He's my true cousin from Atlanta, in Atlanta. He's an artist, musician, painter, I mean, you name it.
Gracias, hermano. Gracias. Muy bien.
Thank you.
Buenoso.
As a matter of fact, my next book, I told him it's going to be the cover is one of his drawings. It's beautiful.
When is that coming out?
Next year. Next year, I have several things in row.
Who published it?
So,
Who is publishing it? Your book?
Oh, Sophia Publishing House here in Miami, out in Homestead, Florida.
Very good. Beautiful.
Thank you.
do you mind adding that in the chat, Danilo, so people can look up that publishing house if they're curious?
Yes, I am adding one of my short story books, The Hells of Valhalla. Yeah, I'm adding also the book page from Amazon, where you can find my other books.
Thank you for sharing those. That's great.
Thank you.
I think we're going to
Thank
hear
you.
from one more poet before we go to our feature. So Josh, you're up next. Josh Daniel Katina is based kind of in Portland and Seattle, but has been traveling to some beautiful places and doing some climbing and hiking and swimming, because I saw all the photos as you were making your way to Texas. You were just in Texas last week. We did an art show together, and it was just a few minutes from where I live here in Fort Worth. And so I just love it that we can have these, I call them something that's a little vulgar, which I'll share it anyway. a whale fuck. So the whale fuck, the reason I mentioned that term is because, and Josh, I love how you did that. Yeah, when there's a certain uh, type of whale that when they're about to mate, they go full speed at towards each other from their section of the ocean, and then in the moment for coitus or copulation to happen, they rise up out of the air, they break the surface of the water, and their bellies touch momentarily, and then they part again and go to their separate areas of the ocean. So I use that term sometimes when I collaborate with people because it's an opportunity to be together and to work very intensely, sometimes with some frustration and impatience, but always with joy and sense of fulfillment. And that happened at our show last week, Josh, and it was kind of like a whale F asterisk asterisk CK, because it's just a moment in time. Like, you know, you were passing through town and you happened to want to put together a show with visual artists and poets and video makers and all, and it was just beautiful. And then we were in our separate places. You're thousands of miles away from me now, and us, the rest of us who are your friends. So now that I might have embarrassed you a little bit, hope I didn't. Please welcome to the stage and virtual stage, and you're welcome to unmute yourself. And you're on. Thank you, Josh.
Thank you, Tammy. Thanks for having me here. We had an amazing show. It didn't. I mean, we pulled it off within 3 weeks, and we were able to give back to a charity, LGBTQ Saves, which was really cool. And Tammy has she knows the founder, and the founder came and spoke to us. And Tammy brought down the house with her spoken word and performance, and I put it on Instagram and on our Art Collective, Radical Roots Art Collective page, which we just started in February. So it's been really cool to reconnect with Tammy in that way. And I recognize some of you from the previous time I was here. Susan, I remember you, and I remember Guadalupe, and Jeffrey, and Albert. Actually, I remember a lot of you guys there. So it's really nice to be back, and I appreciate Tammy so much for inviting me here. And so I have a poem which I kind of cobbled together because, like, I had verses ready, but for this meeting tonight. So okay. So with the thoughts of looking back and like going forward, like looking back on like reflecting, I'm about to move, and I have like I'm moving, and like I'm in the midst of like this creative vortex of like something really cool happened. Like last weekend, we were doing a promotion within like our art collective, and I put one. So I wrote a book about coming out in the South in 2018, and I put like a new cover on it, and like I did like a promotional, and then it went to #1 in LGBTQ biographies, and #4 in young adult, and then 48 in personal transformation. And I'm self-published. Like I don't have any, I don't have like the connections yet, or necessarily. But I do. I've gained an audience, like through social media and stuff, and I couldn't believe it. I was just flabbergasted. Like because I was so ashamed about this work that I had written about, and so for other people to really resonate with it, it just meant a lot. So anyway, that's just. Okay, I'm talking too much, so let me go. Okay, I'm thankful to be here. Don't worry, I'm still a poor social worker, so that.
It's fantastic news.
It was really exciting. I couldn't believe it. Okay, so we are the culmination of the success of water on planet Earth. Yet there is life in the desert. It's just more subtle. You have to be patient with this part of the country, and then the secrets start revealing themselves to you. For I have known nature to be a teacher, to be the guardian of our inner selves. We come into this world unafraid, but are taught to worship at the altar of fear. For the earth herself pulses through each one of our veins, each blood cell a carrier of oxygen and information. Each long pilgrimage we undertake a different type of tutelage, one that is free of constraints, of the man-based authoritarian oligarchies clamoring for attention and espousing oppressing virtues of the suburban life, idolatry at temples of two-story townhomes and bank accounts with never-ending pockets, paying for a life paved with surface-level relationships and hydrangeas. I want to wade in the wild, in the waters of our souls, of the earth. I want to feel each mountain sing, for each mountain and forest tells a different story of the earth. We are her sacred messengers who exist for reasons we can't describe or truly comprehend. Yet in the Sawtooth Mountains, I witnessed an ice blue lake like the heart of a primeval goddess, glistening in her pristine and untouched beauty. And I forgot my fears. I released my tears and expectations down the rolling rapids like a swaddled Moses sailing down some unknown river. In thatched baskets, we are sent towards impossible futures, speeding past the borders of infinity, and then translated into the physical realm at this very moment. It must be that we are all fractals of the universe, looking back and forward, experiencing itself in eternal adventures. I wish I was more like the universe, unbridled and spreading outwards without fear or guilt. For I have known nature to be a teacher, each new peril a parallax, an aperture, a portal to the future, a basket in a river. We pull ourselves through hoops and by our bootstraps, by heartstrings, by the hands of gently wrinkled grandmothers, huskily hushing our fears. Everything that came before is taking us to now. I'm watching young wisp of cornstalk, sunstruck, basking, gloriously expanding in this Oregon summer. I wish I could have knowing like a seed, the kernel's future embedded before its incarnation. Ferns in oak groves, aspens and foxgloves are born knowing their purpose, knowing autumn will take care of itself, trusting that earth and water will one day come to stretch each cell wall open like the cold black bars of the one my hands are gripping. Spirit bade me forward from the bondage we were programmed to believe and of which I am letting go. I am become someone new. I am become elsewhere. Thankful for second chances to fly, wings clipped, shaving edges off my ego, still soaring, flowing through the infinite potential, once closed off like mountains, now open to the free blue sky. Thanks, y'all.
Wow.
Wow, incredible.
Bravo.
Bravo. So good to see you, Josh.
Wonderful.
Thank you
I
so much.
traveled with you. Gosh, I felt myself traveling with you.
Mm.
Thank you so much, y'all.
Thank you for the
I
reminder
want to
of expansion, the potential for expansion.
I want to get confirmation. The grandmother's huskily, is that the word you used? Hushing our fears?
Yes, huskily hushing our fears.
Got it. Thank
you.
you. Thank you. You have to say this about poets. We have these little things, appendages to our head, and they really hear. And we're taking in every nuance in the syllables and the choices of words. You put them together, how we put them together. So thank you. I was blessed to hear that. And thanks for sharing it. Do you have another to share now, or do you want to come back later to share a second piece? Josh.
Sorry, I was muted. No, that was my only piece for today. So Thank you so much.
Great.
I'll put a link to my book here though, if anyone wants to check it out. So.
Gracias, Joshua.
Definitely.
Yeah, congrats on how that book is flying into people's hands.
It was
That's
crazy,
wonderful.
Tammy. Yeah, I was glad to do it. You were part of that and to be there that moment. It was last Friday was very electric. And I just want to let y'all know, Tammy, wow, she really did bring the house down. She brought it, y'all. Like it was amazing to see that energy, and I hadn't seen that in a while. And she just, that was really important for that part of Fort Worth to see. And you talk to a new audience as well. And you inspired me. You inspired the hell out of a lot of us, I think. So just that was really cool.
I think a lot of it.
In addition
Thank you.
to that, so to have that happen after all of that, are you kidding me? This is incredible. So anyway, we'll see what happens.
You're so generous to always be sharing the credit with others, and yeah, that's a special facet of who you are. I think a lot of us have been pent up for so long that it was a pure joy to just like open the mouth and let stuff come out, because we haven't been able to do that in person with each other, on a microphone, no less. It felt really good to hear my voice so loudly filling the room.
Tammy, how can we hear
so
it?
How can you? I think there's an Instagram video, but I'm not really good at sharing that kind of thing. But maybe Josh, if you want to share the link for our art collective Instagram, that might be a way for people to learn more about the collective.
Absolutely, I'll put it in the link. And that one of the I put one of Tammy's videos on there, but there's another one too. I just hadn't posted it yet, so I'll make sure we do that because it was good, y'all.
Thank you so much again, Josh. And we're going to take a short break. It's already 9:02 Central Time. So we'll take about a 5-minute break. I'll put on some music. I will I will stop recording during the break. So just stay with us, come back, and we'll resume. And we'll be hearing from our featured poet right after we come back from the break. Thank you so much. Clap, clap, yay.
Yay!
A little bit of what you said, so it'll be on video. Si puedes. Hate me forever. Hate me forever, and I'll write a poem to resolve my pain about your hating me. But por favor, we're recording now, so oh my God, I'm kicking myself.
No problem.
I'm over here eating Ritz crackers and drinking beer, and I forgot. My bad. Sorry.
I love it. You know what? This is the pandemic still trying to, have its claws in us.
We can't use that as an excuse forever. Can you imagine, like in 2085, like, hey, it's the pandemic.
We got to retire it. So yes, so my book is coming out soon. I believe within the next few weeks, but you can pre-order it at flowersongpress.com. The link is available on my webpage, which is in the chat. And maybe I'll include it again once I'm done reading. But so I'll be reading from the collection. And the collection, a little bit about it is divided into 2 sections. One section kind of deals with memories and stuff, from my childhood, growing up, kind of coming of age, different moments that kind of stand out to me. And then the second part kind of feels like an awakening, or it's a little bit darker as well, and deals with things that aren't necessarily new, but have gained, I guess, focus, right? Racism, anti-immigrant sentiment, just this focus on the area in which I live in, right? That has been maligned by the press and by politicos. So it's got a little bit of everything. And like I said before, I think writing helps me at least process some of these things. As I said, from my past, from the present as well, right? Like we see something and we have to express it, and as poetas, we express it through our writing. So let's get to the poems. The first poem that I want to share is from the first part of the collection, which again, as I mentioned, it deals with childhood and adolescence. This one is titled Isabel. I wish I had never called you mojada. That first day you walked into our classroom. It was an act of self-preservation. I was 8, you must understand. You were new and brown like me, and I was tired of being called a mojado by other kids too. I wish I never said your hair stunk of moldy tortillas and sour lard, single filed against the whitewashed bricks of Crockett's cafeteria. I knew you heard me. When everyone cackled as you ran from the line, all I wanted was to own a blue good citizen ribbon, to please the misses and the misters who wanted us to stop, smelling like onion fields and diesel, and speaking Mexican. I wish I had never told the class you'd peed yourself. That's what I thought mojada meant. I was only 8. You must understand. And Mrs. Torres never taught us how it was a bad word.
Whoa.
Thank you.
Wow.
This next one is titled Lola or Lala or Lupe. The first horse I saw was an old mare named Lola or Lala or Lupe. I was 9. I remember my uncles elbowing each other and laughing when they said her name, the way men do when shame comes cinched with pride. I had only seen horses in westerns, old gladiator classics like Ben-Hur and war dramas Grandpa liked. The lead man's horse always majestic and grand and giving extra screen time if it fell in brave service to the cause. The rest blurred, at best rushed regally with a purpose across the screen, their eyes wide, their noses flared like lacquered stallions racing around livestock show carousels. Lupe or Lala or Lola was not one of those magnificent steeds. She plodded along the ranch's wooden fence, heavy eyes searching for something green among the dry weeds snapping by her feet, her head dropping low into the taller tufts. At the sound of my uncle's roars as if to muffle their stories about women's behinds and hips and mounting and her name muddled in their beer-smelling mouths full of cracked corn teeth and slurring tongues that matched the Technicolor sunset I wanted her to reach. Learning to swim. I'm 5. Grandpa buys me a yellow raincoat like the ones white kids on television wear, so I don't get wet walking to school. It's itchy, hot, and smells like rubber gloves, and I have no choice but to wear it. I'm 33. I blame alcohol and myself for my boyfriend's hands around my throat after leaving Juan's party because I had a fever. He does it because he loves me, I tell myself before I pass out. I am 8. I fractured my tibia in the playground of Primera Iglesia Bautista of Harlingen after being told not to play outside because sleet has made everything slippery. My leg is bound tight in Dad's old shirt. When we get home, there's no money for doctors or hospitals. I am 21. I hear a woman holler by the canal behind Crockett Elementary. Maybe it's just Aunt Chana looking for her cats. Maybe it's La Llorona coming to take me for touching Charlie's penis when I was 10. I am 13. I pray for Grandma to wake from her coma. It's the last time I pray. I am 17. I develop a crush on Navy recruiter Rios, who comes to the house every Saturday of April. He brings brochures and success stories of other barrio guys who join the ranks and now own houses and drive brand new cars after 4 years of traveling the world after high school. I'm 7. Mama, sister, brother, and I hide in the closet during a lightning storm that downs a mesquite in the neighbor's yard. I am 12. I stone the one-eyed grackle pecking at the figs on Grandma's tree. She loves figs and birds, and I never tell her what I did. I'm 41. Mother sobs against my chest and asks if she's been a bad mother. I am 35. I almost drowned pulling my brother out of the deep end of the pool. We are learning to swim. I am 37. I visit the border wall in Hidalgo, Texas, 15 miles from my apartment, as if it's a tourist attraction in another country. Its rusty beams trace an aura of blood in the sky. I can smell and taste the iron when I close my eyes at night. I am 46. I forgive myself for crying like a child every time I hear the finale of Stravinsky's Firebird.
I love
I have-
it. I want you to
time for
keep
one
growing,
more.
keep aging. I want you to get older and older and share every year with us. Share every year, every
It's an
highlight
ongoing-
of every 6 months.
Of any ongoing poem. Do I have time for one more?
Oh yes, more than of course.
More than
yes.
one? Okay, 2 more maybe, because they're little.
Because you're in the mood. It's pretty nice. Yes. It's
I am
Pride
the
Month.
mood. All right.
Extra. Yeah, do it.
So this other one, this next one, there was a book that came out several years ago, and there was some controversy around it. And I think the author mentioned that there wouldn't have been so much controversy around it if she had been a little browner. I'm not going to mention the book because I don't want to give it too much publicity, but maybe you know which one it is. So this kind of came from that, because as I said, I think as poets, that's how we process, we get angry and we write an angry poem, or, somebody cuts us off on the expressway and we write about that experience. So this is kind of my reaction to that. A little browner. When she was 10, my cousin brushed her forearms and her neck with a thick paste advertised to turn her skin a shade lighter. It bleached her forearm hairs, made them shine like corn silk in the sun, like Farrah Fawcett's feathered bangs, who she adored on Charlie's Angels, but not in the magazines that made her look too tan, too coppery, too brown, like her. 2. At 14, I helped Grandpa fix our roof, spent weeks under the Texas sun in June. I was beautiful, lean, and young until my resident alien card arrived. The first one with a photo which I hid from my mother, buried it at the bottom of a drawer. Too brown. I was too brown. Prieto. A cockroach. My white Mexican grandmother would surely say, this is why you need to marry a white girl. Improve the race, my uncle would advise. And every day I'd pray to the blue-eyed Jesus framed in my mother's room. Lord, I don't ask for much. I don't ask to be a güero. Just make me a little lighter before school starts. 3. Oh, how they love to render us as a sea of brown. Plot an eye here, a tooth there, like a tropical getaway, like a recipe on Pinterest. Cinnamon skin, copper skin, toasted skin, almond-shaped eyes, chocolate lips, irises like coffee beans, the whole of our faces lost in the frothing fog of their imagination, expiring under the dirt and broken horizons, under their paintbrushes, their keyboards, their pens. How will they imagine us for themselves today? In the fields or the streets? Oh, how they love to save us from us. Teach us to be supple, to stoop, to wear our father's boots, to follow our mother's bleached, burned voices. Don't stir the pot, turn the other cheek, walk away. Be the bigger person, stay out of the sun, and oh, how good it feels to finally say basta.
Mm.
And then I'll finish up with this last one. It touches kind of the same subject. Maybe it'd be more appropriate for Halloween, but for Dia de los Muertos. But it's called Sugar Skull. I am that sugar skull you buy, chalked outline in the aftermath of blue against brown, ebony, red-throated like hummingbird sheen, peeled off in ribbons, and tied around the blind spot under your golden corn silk hair. I am that sugar skull you decorate, sterilized by cloudless dog days, dried and polished by river-flavored Santa Ana and sandstorms. Thirsting and pressed against concrete walls, asphalt, iron bars, restless inside Target and Walmart sacks, half buried outside Falfurrias, Texas. You offer a Eucharist of ashes. Call me a martyr. Proclaim yourself witness at the edge of town, my face on your child's face, painted by number. I am that sugar skull you proudly display on Halloween, devoid of exit wounds and pesticide-scented hair. Don't you recognize me, America? Gracias.
Wow.
Wow, wow, wow.
Thank you, everybody.
Amazing.
It's great.
Amazing.
That felt so good to hear. Really,
Yeah.
really good.
Y
Thank
del
you.
Valle, y del Valle.
What is the actual release date for the book, Cesar?
I believe it was the 22nd of June, which is next week. But I think we're running a little behind on that, but definitely within the next couple of weeks, for sure, for sure. So yeah, you can get the pre-order in if you can.
And what is the span of the poems in terms of when you started writing the poems that are in this collection, and when you what time frame does this
Um, there are certainly some older poems. I think that some of the poems in the first part of the collection are a little bit older, maybe even up to 10 years ago. And then there are some newer ones in the second part of the collection that are newer, and they some of them deal with like COVID and other issues that are very much present. Yeah. So it's maybe like 10 years to now.
Great. And will you let me know when there'll be like more like official book launches, release readings, so that I can share with we have actually a Facebook group that's called the Dando Poets, a Facebook group. And if anybody here wants to join who hasn't already joined, it's a way to stay in touch with all of our goings on in terms of the series. And I would love to promote your future release.
Yes, absolutely.
And
yeah, no.
There was another. What was my question I had? Are you excited?
Yes.
After all the work,
So yeah, I definitely do want to, now that things are kind of opening up a little bit more, I do want to have, maybe a couple of in-person book launches and reading, here in El Valle, but also definitely virtual, because as you said, I think this past year, I think, has allowed us to connect to a lot of people outside of our areas. So I definitely want to, share that and bring them in, people that I've met over the past year. So thank you, Tammy, again for including me and letting me share my work with other people.
Yeah, I tried to stay apprised of folks who have new books coming out, because I like to highlight them here, highlight folks like you here. And this is the second time I've heard you read virtually with the Dando Poet series. I don't think I'd heard you read before. Maybe I had, but just maybe one poem in a group reading or something. So it's really a pleasure to hear your work. I totally support your progress. Please share a little bit now about your teaching. Like, where do you teach? What are you teaching? Do you offer extracurricular, like outside of academia workshops? And because our folks here might want to know about how to attend or register for those things.
Yeah, well, the last couple of years, I've been teaching at the University of Texas, Rio Grande Valley, as a lecturer and adjunct lecturer. So most of it has been like first year teaching courses, intro, like the composition and rhetoric, and then also some other first year writing courses. Currently, I am not teaching, but I am part of Poets Against Walls, which is a grassroots group in South Texas. And if you want to look us up, we're on Facebook. Just write Poets Against Walls. I'll type it out once I'm done talking. But we do workshops within the community with other nonprofit organizations like La Unión del Pueblo Entero Lupe. We've also done collaborations with other artist collectives. So yeah, I do like to be involved with community workshops when those opportunities pop up, and collaborations. I love that idea that you mentioned earlier, that was it, the whale fuck.
I had to say it.
But it happens, it does happen, so those things do come up. So yeah, if anything does come up through Poets Against Walls, it'll be on the page in the future.
thank you so much for all of that information. And yeah, I appreciate your patience, you know, and, you know, these things sometimes are not so easy to do. And thank you for being here. And I'm very excited say that we got to host you in a pre-release reading.
Yes.
And the recording will be intact once that's up. I'll share the link for it. Mil gracias, Cesar, and best
Thank
wishes
you.
for all your future, for sure, for real. You have new fans here in the room, and that's
Yes, thank
exciting
you.
because, yeah. Can we like show some aplauso? Let's hear it for this great reading
Woo.
from Cesar.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's so important in these virtual spaces to why not, you know, take advantage and spread the word to people who don't live where you live and people that you may not be able to reach because A, you don't have a car. I don't have a car. I can't even drive, you know, 10 miles away from where I live. So to be able to connect with people in these virtual spaces, it's a very great way in terms of accessibility needs and helping folks to be and feel included, including people that are, you know, who are bedridden or who are ill and can't ever travel outside their home for various reasons. And this kind of series, I think there's an important need for it to continue to exist even after the point of the pandemic being a, you know, history. So I may continue. On that note, I should say I'm considering a hybrid model for the future Dando Poets. I'm actually touring a local venue tomorrow. There's a organization that's been asking me if I would host some literary programming in a beautiful old hall where they do swing dancing and all kinds of dancing, beautiful hardwood floor and a great stage. It's like a grandiose school auditorium. It's very nice, and I'm, you know, it's 8 blocks from here. But I want to keep the virtual element intact in order to include Josh, you know, who's, you know, in whatever state he happens to be in at the moment, and folks like Cesar
In
and
Portland right
Danilo,
now.
and you know, it's just you're in. Where are you?
Oh, sorry,
Josh?
Portland, Oregon.
You're in Portland. Okay, great. Yeah, so we'll see how that goes, and if anybody has suggestions on how to, you know, do hybrid readings and successfully, please share with me because I'm learning by doing. We're going to continue on, Cesar. Rest on your laurels for a minute, but feel free to pop back up with comments, etc., in the chat. We have Ana Maria Forest Tamayo, who's representing Keller, Texas. And would you like to unmute your mic and share your poems with us, ahorita?
Okay, I just did.
Welcome, Ana.
Thank you, thank you. It's interesting that you do Poets Facing the Wall. Is it Poets Facing the Wall?
Poets Against Walls.
Poets Against Walls, because I worked with a lot of people in the Rio Grande Valley, and I published some poems in Poets Facing the Wall by the Raving Book Press, I think. And then I've worked a lot with, it's been a few years now, but with Lupe also. So we've traveled the same circles, but I didn't know you have wonderful work. So it's great.
Thank you.
Also, another thing that I thought was very interesting, and it's come up not only with your poetry, but with a lot of the other poems I've heard, is the thing of the immigrant and coming anew. And this goes back to Dando Otra Mirada, giving a second look, a second take, reassessing. And this first poem I'm going to read is, of course, somewhat autobiographical. And I think fittingly, I'm dedicating it to my father, but not only my father, but to all fathers and all immigrants who have come and who have struggled and who keep struggling. So anyway, the big blue sky. And I think, Josh, you mentioned something too with the blue sky. So I thought of you too. The big blue sky. The mid-afternoon dazzled, I dashing uphill to meet my friend, breathlessly flashing my sparkling new Peter Pan collar. Lovely, isn't it? I squealed, brashly enough to whitewash the not so new fading blue corduroy that flaked around my knees, my wobbly legs protruding in an abundance of joy and childhood. Let's race to the top, I mouthed, there where no one will see us, where no one can stop us, where no one shall make us behave como las chicas we're supposed to be, instead of these wild creatures we are, loving the world. We streaked to the crest of that hill, chanting our joy, our exuberance at being alive, me not caring that mommy and papi slaved away trabajando, or perhaps not caring, but no queriendo comprender, because we were children and we loved our lives and the merry-go-round and rolling down the hill so that my blue corduroy skirt became grass-stained and muddy, but it didn't matter. I just wanted to love the sun and the clouds and the big blue sky looming above. When we reached the apex, I unfurled my arms to the sun, to the sky, to the fluffy white clouds scampering like dinosaurs rampaging wind, and I laughed at the speed of their getaway. Where were these clouds going? My friend and I threw ourselves to the ground and slouched down, legs sprawled and arms outstretched. We saw bears and whales and hyenas scuttling through the blue, the face of God blowing them forward in an exodus of flight. Part of my mind brought back my mommy ironing the 3 hand-me-downs I would wear to la escuela next week, plus the shorts she scrounged to buy me because I came home one day llorando. The boys would pull up my blue corduroy and laugh at my pantaletas de refugiada. I didn't want to think of my mommy and my papi's toil. So instead I thought of the tarantula my papi brought home one late afternoon, its big hairy body with its multicolored legs crawling about, trapped in a jar. Wanting to please his flock of children, this was one of the few things he supposed might bring us joy. I would delight in telling my horrid schoolmates I was first to witness una tarantula viva, yet my mommy scolded. ¿Cómo se te ocurre traer algo tan peligroso a la casa? How dare you, she thundered. This horrid creature is poison. Don't we have enough troubles without having that insect escape, biting one of the children? My mommy could see no fun in the spider. She only fretted about doctor bills, worries. But my papi murmured, head hung low. It was crawling about, camouflaged among the stems of bananas. The boats are filled with thousands of pallets, and I'm sure a few odd insects come on board for the ride. Much later, I found out this was the festering legacy the United Fruit Company shipped weekly. I knew it was hard labor what my papi did. For months, he carried those giant banana bunches on his ailing back, hora tras hora each day, moving them out of those massive white boats, reflecting the sun so as to keep the temperatures down. The company cared more about the stems of bananas than ever they cared about workers. For measly pay, my papi slaved his life in tatters. El dinero no era bastante to feed the entire lot of my brothers and sisters, yet it was the only job he could get, not speaking the language. At least the United Fruit Company paid him enough to help us survive. I closed my mind to it all. I would look at the clouds lingering across the big blue sky. I would forget my mommy and papi and even my best friend Marlene. I would stargaze that big blue sky with the clouds swimming by. I would fill up with dreams we could survive those painful days, crammed with worn out corduroys and many-legged tarantulas, bursting with broken English and sueños perdidos. I gazed at the clouds and peeking past them, I would create a colossal benevolent snow woman, kindly showering me with gifts, fantasías y dragones dancing through the red, blue, sun-streaked skies. I kept staring at that big blue sky as it turned orange sunset. I would forget Marlene and my mommy and papi. I would forget the tarantula and my refugee panties. And then as I conjured the azure skyline, turning violet orange with the clouds ambling off dreamily past the horizon, I witnessed a splendorous phoenix emerge, its magnificence overwhelming, giving me fuerza, the strength to get up, to go down that hill, to walk into mi futuro, head held high. Thank you.
Wow.
Oh my gosh.
Thank you.
Wonderful.
Okay.
What a journey.
Thank you. The next one I'm going to read in both languages. First, I'll read it in English, and then I will read it in Spanish. It's completely different. Again, it is about dando otra mirada, giving a second look, reassessing. But it is a completely different poem. Avid jungle. Incandescent fires malign the serpent of my desires as I sit vacantly staring at the Brazilian instrument that shimmers like a sumptuous sculpture, radiant against the brown-skinned tone of wood. The pellets of its music hanging string by string to lyric, soundless of hubris, hungers amalgamated to form one tone, one sound, one pitch of nightfall. Yet the horse neighs quietly in its corner and listens to the wood, cold with expectation. The silence of the snows deepens in the winter of her discontent, and she cannot shake the shadows, beloved but abandoned, bemused yet so bewildered. Where are we headed? Why do the wind chimes linger when they sing? When will the headstone cross its picket line to revel in that moment of forbidden time? What will the rood bear if not the burden of the ancients, the worry of her history, the tribulations of a life gone wrong? The masks upon the wall all stare at her beyond the ages. The shadows lurk in silenced dreams to shudder her misunderstood vexations. But she gets up, looks over at the wind chimes, purposely peeling their yet not blossomed bells. And then she shepherds slowly over to her ivy, to her green-eyed forest, as she begins to water the jungle of her heart. Thank you.
Wow.
Okay, now I'm going to read it in Spanish. And this is an interpretation, not a translation, because translation is never poetry. And if you don't understand Spanish, just close your eyes and listen to the music of the language, because that's part of poetry, is the rhythm and the music that the sound brings. Alumbrados fuegos calumnian la serpiente de mis deseos, mientras me hallo vagamente espiando el instrumento brasilero que brilla como una suntuosa escultura, radiante contra el tono de madera con piel marrón, el perdigón de música colgando, cuerda a cuerda con la letra, sin sonido de arrogancia, hambrunas amalgamadas para formar un tono, un sonido, un paso del anochecer. Sin embargo, el caballo relincha un silencio por su esquina y escucha el bosque, frío con expectación. El silencio de las nieves se profundiza en el invierno de su descontento y ella no puede sacudir las sombras amadas pero abandonadas, perplejas y tan turbadas. ¿A dónde vamos? ¿Por qué persisten las campanillas cuando cantan? ¿Cuándo cruzará la tumba su piquete para gozar ese momento de tiempo clandestino? ¿Qué llevará la cruz si no la carga de los antiguos, las preocupaciones de su historia, las tribulaciones de una vida que salió tan mal? Las máscaras en la pared la juzgan más allá de las edades. Las sombras acechan silenciados sueños para cerrarle las molestias siempre mal pensadas. Pero ella se levanta, vela los cascabeles sonando sus timbres aún no florecidos y luego pasa lentamente a su hiedra, a su bosque de ojos verdes, mientras comienza a regar la jungla de su corazón. Thank you. Thank you.
Great work.
Oh, oh gosh, your reading voice in Spanish. I could hear that on vinyl, LP, CD, MP3, MP4, on a drive-in movie theater with one of those heavy boxes you put on the side of the car. I could listen to that all day. It was beautiful, beautiful reading.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, you're getting a bunch of comments in the chat, Anna. And like I said, I will send everybody the chat in a couple of days, so you don't have to copy and paste this now. I'll
Yeah,
send that to you
thank
later.
you. I forgot to say these were published in Agamanthus. The first one was published in Agamanthus, and then in Tarot House magazine, which is a magazine out of Hungary. And they published this one and also Ivy Jungle. And they published both the Spanish and English. But Ivy Jungle was also published by Rigorous in 2017 when I first wrote it. So
Anna, do you have a way to share the links to some of these if the poems are readable on a website, or if there's a book that we can, anthology or issue of a journal that we can buy?
These are not, they're online. I can share the things online that they're on. I'm trying to get a book published, but I haven't been able to yet. But I'm working on it.
You do important work, as it is very important work when you're not being a wonderful poet. And
Thank you.
I
Thank you.
acknowledge that's also taking up a lot of time and space in your life.
Yeah.
Now, you don't have a book yet, but do you have let's see, a website? Do you have a website for your
My
writing
website I
life?
haven't worked on in a long time because I've been working a lot now to make money, and then otherwise I work with immigrants and that takes up all my time. So between both, I haven't worked on that at all. And then I've been trying to publish my poems as much as I can. So I've been publishing them online and in magazines. I have another, I think you heard this one poem. It's come out several places, and I think I read it in one of the readings with you in Fort Worth, Marimacho. I believe I read, that's coming out in Spain now. And that's come out in several places. It came out in Canada. It's come out in the Southwest. And I was actually paid quite a bit for it. It came out in a university in the Northeast also, or in the Southeast, I think. So yeah, it's been coming. I've been publishing a lot, but at different journals and different things online and in print, but nothing is all together, not yet. One of these days.
Well, I'm here to encourage you to share your work with the world. And I mean, there's 14 people here, 13 people, not including yourself, listening and appreciating. So just imagine times 50 or 100. I think there are people who would be very hungry for your poems.
Thank you. Thank you.
Welcome, Donna. I'm glad you're here, Donna Huffman. And let's shift now to our final poet on the list for tonight. It's Sue Prevost. Unfortunately, Chandrika wasn't able to join us tonight, and I feel badly about that, but we'll just carry forward. And Sue, you are based in New Orleans, Louisiana, but tonight you're in San Miguel de Allende, Mexico, and you drove there. I was so worried for you driving by yourself
Oh, I know.
to Mexico, and you.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that I went to Laredo first, and I really liked Laredo. I never had any problems anywhere, any aspect of the trip. I'm so grateful to be in this place, but grateful to be with you all. For me, being with this group tonight, the warmth and your work in poetry, your work outside of poetry, with the migrantes, immigrantes, and the wall, all of that is just so poignant. You know, I have a feeling, the same feeling that I had when I evacuated from Katrina, and then would see friends in places, of my evacuation. There was just great feeling of, unity and reunion. It feels like a reunion tonight, even though I haven't met many of you before. And your stories inside the poems have just really made me very happy tonight. So thank you, Tammy. Thank you forever for the generosity of your time. My poem tonight is very different from a lot of the ones that I've heard. It's very autobiographical, and it's about a divorce. And it's called Dear Magnolia Ann, or Levitations on Divorce. You had gone, little was visible inside the hunks and squeals of Washington Avenue, when in the drizzle I spotted the gardens. Cherry trees posed like emaciated mimes in sweet, bare perfection. It took only 100 steps before the distortions of our recent history became spores, and I began floating among them, light, detached, flora playing out our lives. The rose garden, depleted by early winter, but near the Doric pillars, both our names greeted us, Baron Prévost, and later a shrub, Magnolia Ann, their petals worn. Clearly, it was immortal humor to replant us in the north. You as decorative magnolia, and me, the hardy one, everlasting through the seasons. But maybe that's how it really was. You secretly ornate, fragile, and me with my boot toe on the earth. Truth needs time to grow. I hovered above us in no particular form, and in the rain and in the revelations, I had to let us go. Thank you. The other one is called Fog, 1974. When you remember the mosquito trucks, right? Okay, so that's what that weird irony of pleasure and exhilaration and DDT poisoning. So it's a very short one. Mosquito truck. The mosquito truck came shrouded in a fog of familiar perfume. Its song beckoned us street friends to dive inside the blast of toxins. We lost ourselves in the Dionysian dance of summer. Our thin screeches of ecstasy called the others to leave behind their bedrooms. Crazed with fumes, we were one with our godless selves. Thank you.
Wow. Hmm. Did you run after the truck? Were you letting the fog?
Oh, totally. Totally immersion. No one told us not to. We breathed it in like perfume. We thought it smelled better than perfume. And we followed it all the way down the street. I thought a lot of people did the same thing. Am I wrong? Maybe yeah.
They've done it in Fort Worth.
Those trucks didn't come they didn't come down our street, but yeah, yeah. There's a scene in the Terrence Malick film where the kids are running after the truck and you know, they're inhaling it and you're just aghast. And you know, it's all, you know, it's a movie, but I just, my stomach clenched, my lungs, my throat felt like it was tightening. Yeah, and so it was a true, I mean, that's a true experience for a lot of folks. Were you in New Orleans when you were doing that when you were a kid?
Yeah, and where I was raised, it was a pumped out swamp, right? And they called it the suburb. And so there were still patches of woods and lots of mosquitoes and, you know, patches of, well, turtles and snakes. And so you had this weird, wild element in it. And in those days, people thought anything chemical was great because that's how everyone was making their living, right? Either through petroleum or chemical plants. And all the men were in the chemical plants. And, you know, that was a sign of upward mobility, actually, in my blue collar, you know, neighborhood. We were just one step, you know, from the farm or from the ship or from the reservation. Those were my,
Mm.
yeah, one step further along, yeah, they say.
Yeah, I have a friend who said we have our family has a toehold on the on the middle class rung, a toehold. Really
Right.
there.
Yeah.
Uh, Wonderful work. Thank you, Sue, and for your patience as the person who read last tonight. But thank you for being here. I hope you have a great, joyous time on your retreat, your whatever
Thank
you're calling it, your get there in Mexico.
you, for sure. Yeah.
Do you have a way for people to reach you via social media, however, whatever you'd like to share? That would be great. Or a place if any of your work is online.
Yeah, I'll put that in the chat. Thank you, Tammy.
Great. Of course, you're welcome. Thanks for being here. And you know, I just want to say thank you and feel free to clap with me for the folks who are in the room who have not read and who didn't intend to read and who come here faithfully month after month after month to listen and enjoy and learn. Jeffrey, I'm looking at you because you're often here. Jeffrey wrote an amazing poem in the moment a couple of months ago, and when I put that video up on YouTube, I know you're gonna want to, you know, fast forward to that section. It was a beautiful evocative revelation when that happened, Jeffrey. That was one of the highlights for me in the Dando poetry series when that happened, when you did that. It was amazing. uh, yeah, and yeah, of course, people are welcome to come back as audience attendees. And I do have a little kind of a guideline that folks can read every other month so that we get to hear other voices. I do a lot of outreach and curation work to bring in voices that I haven't heard in a while or whose poetry I desire to have, you know, give an opportunity for the Dando Poets readings. Does if you have questions or comments for each other, feel free to share. I'm gonna look at my notes to see if there's anything important that I need to bring up as we start to move towards a closing. So feel free to unmute and ask each other questions or give those final kudos and shout outs to each other.
Well, thank you, Tammy, for this opportunity. I got to meet wonderful people, got to see my cousin. And you know, it's a wonderful opportunity for us to share and get to make new friends and new opportunities for publishing and writing and sharing what we love to do, poetry and arts. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. Very welcome.
Thank you, Tammy, for the opportunity, and thank you all. I mean, man, I'm just knocked out. Wow, I leave here tonight a better person for having heard all of you. Thank you.
This really has been wonderful. I've loved it, everything. All the poems have been great in each different facet. Thank you, Tammy. You will always, you always get everything together, and it's just been wonderful. Wonderful.
Yes, it
Thank
was.
you.
It was.
Yes,
it was a real delight.
Go ahead.
Gracias a todos who attended and who shared their beautiful word. Gracias.
Feel free to join the Dando Poets Facebook group, and I think you have to send a request, and then I go in and approve it. I approve everybody, unless they're somebody, you know, who I owe money to, and I'm just kidding, of course. But yeah, it's a great way to stay apprised of what the upcoming themes are, and I share also about you know, who's the upcoming featured poets. And it looks like Joe Reyes Boitel, who's here with us as an attendee and audience member, will possibly be featuring in September. I'm looking forward to that. Thank you, Joe, for being here.
Thank you, Tammy. It was an honor to hear all of you.
It's great to see you again, Josh.
You too, Susan. Hope to see y'all again.
Yeah.
I enjoyed the
this is
two
very
poems I got to
magical.
hear at the end.
Hey, Donna.
Thank you.
Gracias. Gracias.
And
Perdón.
I realize I only have the videos up, and more of the videos will be uploaded. I'll try to prioritize that this coming week. Thank you. Sorry, Lupita. You
No. Gracias.
Oh, and if you
thanks for making the process, because I started packing, you know, yesterday I finished packing my classroom, and since the beginning of this week I started packing, you know, my stuff here at home so I can move to Dallas. And it's a process, but you made my day better. Thank you very much. And I was able to see from your experiences and your poetry some images of my life. So it's interesting how we can portray in different phrases or images of your poetry ourselves. We can portray ourselves there. Thank you very much.
I wanted to issue a challenge because of what's happening in the Texas legislation. They're trying to make it illegal for teachers, speaking of teachers like you, Lupita, to talk about race or talk about the factual history of Texas, which is, you know, full of racism and oppression against people of color, to go ahead and create with me some kind of hashtag Texas Tio Tia TX truth teller. I thought, what better way to supplement what the teachers are trying to teach and are not being allowed to teach than with poets going out and finding your little nephews and nieces, the kids this summer, and sit them down and tell them the truth, because poets have a mission to do that, and we already have a lot of work that speaks truth about our place in history. and our place in the places where we live. So why not be a school teacher for your little sobrinas y sobrinos y sobrinex, and do that teaching, the adjunct, the ancillary, the extra teaching for these kids we love so much in our own biological families, and extend some lessons out to them that they may not be able to get in the classroom so much anymore.
And I just wanted to say,
Um,
oh, I'm sorry. Sorry.
one quick thing, if y'all choose the gallery view, you can see all the faces at once, rather than just one face at a time. So I was just going to suggest that. Go ahead, Sue, or whoever was speaking.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, somebody who is not from a South Texas culture, not from a Latinx background, I am so hungry for your words and your stories. I just can't get enough. And please keep writing. It's just delicious. Thank you.
Thank you, Sue. That's so beautiful. What an honest and urgent request. And so there are listening ears. You may not think, well, that person doesn't look like me, and I don't know them. They're not in my poetry clique. So why would they want? Well, we can't assume that. So let's give otra mirada about that. Like who is our audience? Who do we who? It's beyond like who deserves to hear my work, but it's like who could benefit from my work, who might change their mind because they're hearing it come from me and seeing me. And I'm a harmless poet, and I have so much brilliance and joy and exuberance about my impressions of the world. So Sue's right here to tell us, I want it. Please share more.
I want more.
So we meet every the third Saturday of every month, and 8 to 10 p.m. Central Standard Time. We run about 2 hours, and we often go over. And we've sometimes ended with people doing shots and fun things like that. So it doesn't feel like we're going in that direction tonight, but you never know. Every month is a different. And yeah, I didn't even go to the refrigerator, so my bottle's been empty for a while. But I do have a can, something waiting for me. I am going to stop recording, and so I'm going to bid you a farewell and say good night, and you're free to move off into the rest of your beautiful Saturday night without us. And I will stay here and hang out for anybody who wants to chat or bare their soul in non-poetic ways or poetic ways. So love you all, and thank you so much. And